Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special episode of Break It Down with Bryan H. As you can see, I had to go in the studio for this one. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter about Mount Rushmores of professional wrestling. So guess what? You know what? I said I'm going to do my own. So in this first edition, because it's going to be a two-part, we're going to do the men's and we're going to do the women's. A lot of people like to omit the women's. Shout out to those wrestling girls because they never let that happen. They always on the forefront as they celebrate their 3-year anniversary of letting you know, put some respect on women's wrestling. So we're going to do that. But first, let's do the men's, right? Let's get right into it.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's time. Now, the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. You might have seen a graphic. You're wondering the explanations because we put the thumbnails up. But I'm going, my first choice. It's not popular because clearly color of my skin. People still hate him. I always say, he ruined his relationship with professional wrestling long before the tapes, before everything came out. But nonetheless, he's still the man. He's still somebody who was the first person who I was, let's call it for what it is, emotionally attached to. My list will be people that I was emotionally attached to that I wanted to see them win. So it's my top 4. Number 1 is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan revolutionized pro wrestling. Me, I was born in 1986. He was the world champion. When I first started watching wrestling, he was the guy that I wanted to see. I wanted to say my prayers, eat my vitamins. It was just that simple. Little old me, when Hulk Hogan was on TV, I was glued to the screen. When he went to WCW, he made WCW must-see television for me and for a lot of other people. In my household, we ordered the pay-per-views because Hulk Hogan was in WCW. And then when he made the switch, brother, to the NWO, revolutionized the business, recreated himself. There's a lot of talk about Chris Jericho recreating himself, right? A lot of talk about people like Randy Orton, AJ Styles, how they can always just recreate themselves throughout the years. But Hulk Hogan did it in a huge way. People who hated Hulk Hogan loved Hollywood Hogan. So that is the reason that he's on my Mount Rushmore. He's the biggest superstar in professional wrestling history. When you mention his name, he's the GOAT. It's just that simple. So my number 2 on my Mount Rushmore is none other than the excellence of execution, Bret the Hitman Hart. For me, when Hulk Hogan left WWE, when Hulk Hogan took a step away from pro wrestling, I was just getting to the point where I was really understanding, where I was looking for the programming on television each and every week. And guess who was? It was Bret Hart. 1992 wins the WWE Championship from the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Now, when he lost to Yokozuna, I was sad. Little old me was sad, and that's when I realized, wow, this is like my guy. WrestleMania 9, one of my favorite WrestleManias. For me, I had Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. A perfect night would have been them winning the tag titles and Bret retaining the WWF Championship. It didn't happen. We all know the story. Don't need to get into that. But then 1994 came the following year. And that's when Bret Hart beat Yokozuna at WrestleMania and went on a run all the way until Survivor Series where he lost. But I was connected. These are people that when I watched them wrestle, I was praying, I was hoping, and every time they was on TV, I was glued. And then we go into when Bret Hart turned heel, he made me say, okay, this is what happened with him and Hogan. When they turned on the fans, or the fans turned on them, I joined their side. I was sitting up there. If there was a team to be on, USA or Canada, I was Team Canada. It was these people that broke up Bret and Owen. So for me, it's Bret Hart. He's the number 2 on my Mount Rushmore. I know people love Shawn Michaels, but I always will defend Bret Hart. I know there's a lot of people in this younger generation if you didn't live it, you just wouldn't understand. Number 3 is The Rock. Now, I did have a time because it's Stone Cold The Rock, right? But this is my Mount Rushmore. This is the one I was a favorite. Who was my favorite? Rock, up until a while ago, all these people are my top 4. But The Rock was somebody that each and every week when he was on SmackDown, I was paying attention. Those Thursday nights, when The Rock was wrestling, you was glued. The promos, everybody wanted to be like The Rock. There was a store, I'll give a quick story. There was a store called Modern Image here in Baltimore, right? And that's where we went to buy our suits. Y'all know me. Y'all see my Facebook and Instagrams that, I like to dress up. And when I wore those suits, you walked around and you felt like $1 million. However, at that same store, they used to have the shirts, and my mother wouldn't let me get them, but they used to have these shirts that was similar to The Rock's $700 shirt. And that's what made me want to be like him. And I wanted one of those so bad, but I couldn't get it. I eventually would. Y'all can go. I went on a boat party. Shout out to the National Association of Black Journalists. Went on there. But The Rock was somebody that you wanted to be like. When you look at a guy like Roman Reigns right now, he is what The Rock was for the kids who don't understand, at a higher level maybe, but no, he was at a higher level because Rock was everywhere. Rock was on NBC, ABC, CBS. He was at everywhere. Roman he's at a lot of places, but when it comes to turning on SmackDown, the same way that you want to go see what the tribal chief is talking about was the same way you wanted to see what The Rock was doing. And that's why he's on my Mount Rushmore. Now, number 4, this is a personal favorite of mine. And there was no way I was going to have a list. Shout out to Britt Waters because she always reminds me, yeah, that's your fave. There was no way I was going to have a list and not have this man on it. His name is Bryan Danielson, but in this case, in this list, because shout out to my brother Blue because he would tell me, I'm going to call him Daniel Bryan. Because that's when he became my favorite. I'm not going to be one of those people that say, oh yeah, I loved him when he was in ROH and when him and Nigel McGuinness was putting on classics and him and El Generico or CM Punk. No, because I didn't know about him then. But I got connected in 2013. Shortly after the run where he was chasing John Cena, he won the belt, then he got screwed, lost it, and then he was back on that chase. It was a night I was listening to a podcast with him and Chris Jericho, and he talked about his love for the business. He said when he first discovered wrestling, he just wanted to get his hands on so much wrestling videos and magazines. And I was like, wow, that's how I was as a child. And it was just something about him and I really sat down and I was like, wow, Daniel Bryan is my favorite wrestler. I actually like him more than The Rock and Hogan and Bret Hart. And I never thought that would be possible. But, I look at him, the Yes Movement was revolutionary. And going into WrestleMania 30, it was about 3 weeks after I had got married. That's the reason why I went to WrestleMania, got married and didn't go to WrestleMania that year. I remember riding home because if y'all remember at that time, you was not 100% sure. Sure, it was an obvious way to go, right? Put the belt on Bryan. But there was a slight chance that Batista could have walked out of New Orleans with the title. At least that's how they had you hooked, And my wife was like, man, I sure hope he wins the belt because you're going to be hard to deal with. Absolutely. But nonetheless, Daniel Bryan became the WWE champion. And then I felt the emotion when he had to leave because we won run. Finally, he built up, he wins the title, but he had one title defense and then he suffered an injury, ultimately came back, but ultimately suffered another, had to retire. But then with the case of modern medicine, we saw the return of Daniel Bryan. And then he made a change in his character. And here's a funny story. The night he won the belt from AJ Styles on SmackDown, I fell asleep. I was so mad. I fell asleep that Tuesday night. I woke up. I looked. I fell asleep early during SmackDown. And my brother Corey was like, he said in the group chat, I think Bryan's getting the belt tonight. And when I woke up, I saw the message, I looked at that, then I saw notifications, new WWE champion. I was like, oh my goodness. You know, but that run and then what he did for Kofi Kingston, I mean, just amazing. So that is my Mount Rushmore, ladies and gentlemen. Please drop your Mount Rushmore in the chat. You know, I was like, I want to do this, but you know, I got to go to the studio for this one. Like it's a big deal, you know, and I wanted to step into the wrestling realm for this one. You know, I had to go into the wrestling realm. I wish my brother was here. I feel a little bit lonely. It's kind of cold in here. So I'm not with the real Dwayne Allen, but we will be back. We will be back. And, you know, speaking of which, okay, you can get these t-shirts right on our website for $27.99. And there's actually a holiday code, which you'll find on social media, where you can get a percentage off. But we appreciate everybody because, man, during Cyber Monday, Black Friday, we sold a lot of shirts. I appreciate it. Make sure if you bought a shirt, share it on social media so we can give you a repost, a retweet, a follow if we're not following you. But I appreciate it. I can't wait to see the day that, you know, some of y'all wear the t-shirts at a wrestling show. But for anybody who supported the brand for the past 10 years, I want to thank you. Obviously, thank my brother, the real Dwayne Allen, for designing this one. This is the Wrestling Wrealm Now t-shirt. We got tons of others and the hoodies as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that will do it. Make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm gonna also put this on the podcast platform. So make sure if you're listening, hit the subscribe, hit the follow. You can rate us on Spotify. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts as well. And make sure you let me know who is on your Mount Rushmore. Let me know if you disagree too. Until the next time, I'm Bryan H. Waters. Too sweet.